to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome, dear listener, to Deep Sleep Stories. You have chosen a gentle pause for yourself, a soft moment in which you can breathe deeply and let the cares of the day melt away. In a little while, you will be carried through a comforting tale of a quiet evening in a quaint French café, where tender drops of rain patter against the rooftop and warm lights glimmer in the misty twilight. For now, settle into the present. Feel the softness beneath you. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath and allow each exhale to carry stress from your body. You are here to rest, to drift, and to find ease in simple, soothing images. This time is entirely yours, a peaceful nook in the tapestry of life. With every slow inhale, feel your chest rise with serenity. With every gentle exhale, feel tension slip away. In this serene space, you may sense your muscles loosening, your thoughts quieting, and your heart rate gently slowing. Let your mind wander toward the tender hush of a rainy night, the cozy glow of a lamp-lit window, the soft hum of distant conversation. All that's left for you to do is relax, invite tranquility into your breath, and let the story guide you into a realm of deep calm. Beyond the edges of your awareness, imagine that evening twilight has settled upon a picturesque French town. The sky is a muted shade of lavender gray, and you can almost see the delicate swirl of mist in the air. Soon, you will step inside the story fully, carried by a narrative whose sole purpose is to lull you into comfort and rest. Before we continue, take a few more long, unhurried breaths. Notice the expansion in your lungs and sense how the air feels cool going in and softly warm going out. Feel your shoulders release downward as if any weight you've carried is gently melting, drawn away by the promise of a calm, intimate tale. Let your mind align with a sense of soft curiosity, free of worry or expectation. Trust that here in this moment you are safe and supported, and the world can be as simple as the steady patter of rain on a roof. Now let us turn our attention to the story itself, shifting gently into that dreamlike haze where narrative weaves a tapestry of restful images. There is no need to follow every detail closely. You can let the words flow over you in a gentle stream, carrying you ever closer to slumber. Allow your eyes to grow heavier, your breathing to remain full and calming. In time, the soothing, melodic story will do its work, guiding you into the heart of a quiet, timeless world and lulling you softly towards sleep. Late in the day, soft rain began to fall upon the winding cobblestone streets of a serene French village. Lamps flickered in the windows of a small café, illuminating droplets that sparkled like tiny jewels against the night. The damp air was fragrant, with the scent of wet leaves, fresh bread, and the sweet perfume of late blooming flowers. Across the street, small houses with time-worn shutters stood silent, their chimneys releasing thin curls of smoke into the dusk. Inside the cafe, Marianne, a warm-hearted individual who wore her compassion as naturally as she wore her favorite knitted cardigan, stood behind the polished wooden counter. She had a quiet smile on her face, a silent invitation for anyone seeking refuge from the world. The cafe was dimly lit with vintage lamps, each throwing a warm glow that created soft shadows dancing across the tiled floor. The gentle hiss of an espresso machine joined the comforting patter of rain, forming a lullaby that soothed anyone who stepped through the door. A young woman named Claire arrived at the cafe, gently pushing open the heavy wooden door. Tucked beneath her arm was a worn leather journal, pages filled with half-remembered dreams and sketches of whimsical ideas. She set her umbrella by the entrance and quickly smoothed her damp hair, smiling shyly at Marianne as she chose a seat near the window. The tabletop was marbled, reflecting the candle's glow in warm ripples of light. Through the window, Claire could see the rain dancing across the pavement. She watched droplets collide, merge, and roll down the glass, each one a tiny vessel carrying a small piece of the evening's hush. The street outside glimmered in the lamplight, and the cafe interior felt like a sheltered haven. When Marianne approached, Claire asked for a cup of coffee with just a splash of steamed milk, her voice soft as if she did not wish to disturb the peace. Settling into her chair, Claire opened her journal to a fresh page. She began to jot down the day's reflections, her pen making slow, measured strokes. The gentle sound of raindrops on the roof provided a steady rhythm that kept her thoughts calm, her breath synchronized with the hush of rain, the pages turning quietly beneath her hand. Though she often came to the cafe to write, this evening felt particularly comforting. The sky outside was a thick, velvety gray, and every surface shimmered with delicate moisture. She let her mind drift between memory and imagination, occasionally glancing up to see if there was anyone else in the cafe. A few patrons sat in relaxed postures, sipping hot drinks, their faces lit by the gentle glow of lamplight. Soft murmurs of conversation floated around the tables, never rising to disrupt the tranquil atmosphere. At a corner table sat an older gentleman named Henry, quietly stirring sugar into his tea. His gaze drifted to the window, following the silhouette of rain trails across the glass. He recalled days from his youth when a heavier downpour might have tempted him to dance in the streets. A faint smile touched his lips as he remembered the smell of wet pavement from childhood storms. Across from him, Margot, the cafe's longtime friend, was busy reading a novel. She looked up occasionally to share a nod and a smile with Henri, acknowledging the unspoken camaraderie of those who seek refuge in the same cozy spot. The cafe felt like a small universe where the weather outside only heightened the sense of warmth within. Marianne glided from table to table, her steps quiet and deliberate, as if she were part of a slow ballet. She paused to ask if anyone needed refills for a slice of the raspberry tart she'd prepared that morning. Each time she passed by the window, her reflection in the glass briefly overlapped with the dancing shadows of the rain. Everything seemed to move in a gentle rhythm. People, lights, and raindrops all swaying together in a tranquil choreography. Claire sipped her coffee, savoring the creamy texture, the aroma of roasted beans mingling with the subtle sweetness of the milk. The warmth spread through her chest, and she felt a pleasant drowsiness beginning to wash over her. She leaned back in her chair, letting the lull of the rain and the cozy interior loosen her normally quick-beating heart. In her journal, she wrote lines of a poem, uncertain of the final shape, but enjoying the act of creation. As she paused to think of the right word, she gazed around the cafe, taking in every soft detail. The gentle curve of the countertop, the flicker of candlelight reflecting in the glass sugar bowl, and the worn edges of chairs that had hosted countless stories over the years. Outside, the rain picked up slightly, tapping more insistently on the rooftop, as if it wanted to join in on the cafe's conversation. The sky was darker now, the air growing a bit chillier. To ward off the evening's coolness, Marianne added a few more logs to the small fireplace tucked in the corner. The quiet crackle of wood burning added yet another layer of warmth to the atmosphere. Sparks occasionally glinted in the dim light, and a gentle wave of heat spread through the room. It was enough to make shoulders relax, eyes grow heavier, and even the simplest movement feel wrapped in serenity. A soft chime tinkled from the door as a new visitor arrived, Amelie, a local florist whose scarf was slightly damp from the rain. She carefully hung her scarf on the coat rack and made her way to the counter, requesting a mug of lavender-infused tea. Marianne offered a knowing smile, having prepared special tea blends for Amelie's shop on many occasions. They exchanged a few hushed words about the weather, about the blossoms that still clung to life in the fall season. Soft laughter lightened the air, each note a gentle ripple in the cafe's comfortable hush. Amelie found a seat near an antique brass lamp, its warm glow illuminating her thoughtful face as she sipped her fragrant tea. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the delicate floral aroma mingle with the gentle drumming of raindrops overhead. Meanwhile, Claire continued to write, allowing the cafe's quiet charm to seep into her thoughts. She described in her journal the way candlelight could turn a glass of water into a glittering piece of art, or how the scent of freshly baked pastries and brewed coffee brought comfort, like a cherished memory from childhood. She was reminded of a similar cafe she'd visited years ago in another town, where the rain felt just as soothing, and the laughter of strangers felt just as welcoming. Her mind drifted from that memory to the present moment, weaving together a tapestry of warmth and contentment that made her eyelids flutter with drowsiness. Henri glanced at the grandfather clock standing in a corner of the cafe. The time seemed irrelevant here. yet its slow, steady ticking contributed a gentle background rhythm. The hours passed softly in this sanctuary, each minute folding gracefully into the next. At times, the entire café felt suspended in a kind of dreamy stillness, unbothered by the outside world. People sipped their drinks more slowly, lingered in conversation more thoughtfully, and allowed themselves the rare luxury of not rushing anywhere. Even the hum of passing cars outside the window seemed hushed, subdued by the curtains of rain. Marianne, noticing the glint of half-moon circles under Claire's eyes, approached quietly to ask if she would like a warm blanket. Claire nodded gratefully, and Marianne brought a folded throw with soft tassels, draping it over Claire's lap with care. The added warmth, combined with the ambient glow of lamps, made the cafe feel even more cocoon-like. Claire murmured her thanks, thinking how rare it was to feel so well cared for in a public space. A subtle sense of belonging settled over her, further soothing the tension she'd been unconsciously carrying. Outside, the rain shifted to a gentler pattern, almost as if nature itself sensed the lull inside. The droplets on the window formed new paths, gently trickling down the glass. Lamps on the street cast small halos in the mist, while the cafe's own light shone outward, attracting the occasional passerby who peered in curiously. Some entered seeking warmth, others simply smiled and continued on their way, carrying the sight of the cozy interior with them into the damp streets. As the hour grew later, the cafe's patrons remained in a tranquil lull. Emily closed her eyes again, inhaling the fragrant steam of her tea. Henri finished his cup, resting his hands around the warm porcelain and drifting into memories of dances long past. Margot's gaze lingered on the page of her book. She seemed to be reading at half speed, allowing the hush of the space to fill her thoughts. Occasionally, a gust of wind would nudge the rain, sending it against the windows with a soft rush, but the cafe interior held steady, unflappable in its contented stillness. A sense of kinship blossomed among those who had gathered, each aware on some level that they were sharing a special, quietly magical evening. In time, Claire found herself studying the patterns in the tiled floor, old French blue squares and cream hexagons worn by years of footsteps. Each scratch and mark told a story of someone passing through, pausing here, finding warmth or inspiration. She wondered about the conversations held in this very spot. Secret confessions, hushed laughter, heartfelt confessions of love. She felt comforted by the idea that the walls around her had listened to countless stories, absorbing them into a tapestry of shared human experience. Rain continued its melodic patter on the roof, a steadfast companion to these communal narratives. Drowsiness began to weigh upon Claire, her breath slowing and deepening. A half-smile graced her lips as she closed her journal, content with the fragment of poetry she had managed to capture. Not everything needed to be finished tonight. sometimes just beginning, or simply being, was enough. She traced a finger along the smooth rim of her coffee cup, noticing how her thoughts wandered in slow loops. The world outside might hurry on, but within these walls there was no need to rush. Here, each breath was precious, each heartbeat a reminder of life's gentle pace. Across the room, Marianne dimmed a few of the lamps, leaving just enough light to maintain a soft glow. The shadows grew longer, dancing in corners and softly embracing the cafe's patrons. A lull in the wind allowed the rain to sound more delicate, like a soft, rhythmic lullaby tapping on tin. The hush that fell over the space was deep and enveloping, encouraging each person to drift in thoughts or quiet conversation. If one were to stand outside and peer in, they'd see a scene of timeless charm. The intimate gathering of souls, the silhouette of flickering candles, and the faint fragrance of coffee and pastries beckoning from within. Claire considered the journey that brought her here, little decisions along her day that had led her to spend this rainy evening in the company of gentle strangers. There was something profoundly comforting in the knowledge that no part of the night needed to be solved or achieved. It was enough to simply exist, to listen to the patter of rain, to watch the lamplight shimmer off porcelain cups, and to be lulled by the quiet hum of existence. Henri, too, felt a wave of soothing fatigue pass over him. He leaned back against his chair and closed his eyes, just for a moment, to better hear the symphony of raindrops overhead. It reminded him of lullabies his mother once hummed in their modest cottage far from here. That memory, so distant in years, felt close and tangible in this soft setting. He breathed in slowly, letting the wet night air, though somewhat tempered by the cafe's warmth, settle into his thoughts. It brought him a kind of peace that felt both nostalgic and immediate. Margot set her book on the table, lost in her own contentment. She listened to the softened chatter around her, thinking of all the evenings she had spent here, each one special in its own quiet way. She often felt that the cafe was alive, its heartbeat in the warmth of the lights, its breath in the gentle drifting of steam from coffees and teas. Tonight, with the added grace of rain, she was reminded of how precious small comforts can be. Her gaze shifted to the softly falling droplets outside, then to the gentle flicker of the fireplace embers, a contrast that seemed to celebrate both the external hush and the interior glow. Amélie, still cradling her lavender tea, felt the faint brush of sleep at the edges of her mind. The floral scent lingered on her lips, blending nicely with the mild humidity from the rain that seeped in through the cafe's old windows. She allowed her tension to soften, letting her shoulders slacken. The to-do lists and responsibilities of tomorrow could wait. For now, there was only the comforting hush, the rhythmic rain, and a subtle interconnectedness between everyone present. It was as if the cafe were gently holding each person in a cradle of warmth and light, ensuring that outside cares could not intrude. As the evening wore on, the rain began to slow, each drop now spaced out so that one could hear the crisp pad of droplets on the metal gutters. The quiet intervals between the raindrops felt luxurious. From time to time, the hush was punctuated by the sound of a spoon clinking against a saucer or the gentle rustle of someone turning a page. Yet these sounds were soft, unobtrusive, folding seamlessly into the lull. If one closed their eyes and surrendered to the moment, the cafe could almost dissolve into the realms of a pleasant dream, where all was calm and lovingly illuminated by a soft glow. Claire gathered her belongings with unhurried grace, slipping her journal back into her bag. She hesitated a moment, not quite ready to leave the spellbound atmosphere. Instead, she drew the blanket closer around her shoulders, deciding to remain for a while. Outside, she saw a slight breeze carry fallen leaves across the cobblestones, their golden brown edges illuminated in the lamp's cone of light. Autumn had begun its gentle approach, and the cafe's warm interior contrasted beautifully with the crisp air just beyond the door. She felt grateful for this shelter, for the intangible sense of belonging that sometimes finds people far from home. A sense of timelessness wrapped around the cafe as the patrons found themselves lulled by the same unseen thread, the synergy of rain, warm lights, and the subtle presence of kind-hearted strangers created a pocket of serenity that asked for nothing more than acceptance. Claire watched as Marianne made her way to each table, quietly checking in, offering a refill of hot water or an extra cushion for the back. No one seemed in a hurry to depart, and the rain, though calmer, still provided enough of a reason to stay just a bit longer, safe in the hush of this idyllic refuge. At a table near the fireplace, a small vase held a single pink rose, the last of the season from Amelie's flower shop, its petals gently drooping but still vibrantly colored. Claire found her gaze resting on that rose, thinking of how ephemeral moments of beauty can be, and yet how strongly they linger in memory. The cafe felt like an embrace of such fleeting instants, collecting them in the soft lighting and storing them in every worn surface. The hush continued, each breath slow and even, each heartbeat a reminder of life's gentle pulses. Henri decided to stand and stretch his legs, crossing the room at a leisurely pace. He paused by the window, peering through the glass at the water droplets that remained, some trembling at the brink before gravity let them down. He remembered the nights of his youth spent in raucous cafes, filled with music and bright lights. Tonight's calmness was a different kind of wonder, one that resonated deeply with his desire for rest. He took comfort in the knowledge that such peaceful pockets still exist in a world that often felt hurried. Marianne, seeing the closing time was traditionally near, chose not to rush anyone out. Instead, she dimmed the lights further, leaving only the softest glow from the lamps and the golden flicker of the remaining fire. The room was cast in a gentle hush, encouraging heavier eyelids and slower conversations. A sense of communal restfulness washed over everyone, as if they were collectively preparing for a journey into slumber. And indeed, in a way they were. Each would eventually step out into the quiet streets, make their way to their beds, and carry this night's calm with them into the softness of their dreams. Claire found herself in a semi-dozing state, her journal bag resting in her lap, the blanket snug around her. She glanced at the other patrons, noticing the reflective glimmer in their eyes. Everyone seemed entranced by the gentle hush that had settled over the cafe. A part of her wanted to capture this moment, to write it down in detail. Yet she recognized that sometimes the best memories form in the open spaces left by reverie. Eventually, even her desire to document gave way to a simpler impulse to let go, to be present, and to accept the night's languid invitation. A final hush of wind passed along the street, causing a gentle rustle of leaves that played against the glass. The droplets on the rooftop sounded softer now, as if the rain were drifting into a peaceful lullaby. The sky outside had become a deep navy, with only a few faint stars visible through the thinning clouds. It was the kind of night that seemed to promise easy dreaming and a slow, nurturing rest. Ever so softly, as if guided by an unspoken understanding, patrons began to gather their coats and prepare to return home. Henri helped Margot with her jacket, while Amélie sipped the last of her lavender tea. Claire rose, folding the blanket and placing it back on her chair, then thanked Marianne with a gentle smile. The door opened occasionally, allowing a whispered breath of fresh, cool air into the cafe. The air mingled with the lingering warmth of the fireplace, creating a sweet balance of crisp and cozy. There were soft goodbyes and quiet farewells, spoken as if not to disturb the enchantment that had enveloped the room. Eventually, Claire stepped out into the misty twilight. The rain had receded to the faintest drizzle. The street lamps still shone, their light reflecting in small puddles along the cobblestone road. She tucked her umbrella under her arm. There was hardly a need to open it now. She looked back at the cafe's facade, its windows glowing like friendly eyes in the night. A fleeting thought passed through her mind. She wished everyone could experience such a comforting corner of the world, at least once. A shelter from cares, a vessel of gentle quietude, and an embrace of shared warmth. Outside, the air tasted clean, and the town was hushed under the blanket of dusk. Each step Claire took felt unhurried, as though she was still wrapped in the cafe's gentle pace. Her thoughts settled on the memory of the pattering rain, the hush of soft conversations, and the sense that time could be a friend rather than a taskmaster. She carried that feeling with her, letting it guide her down the empty sidewalk. The shadow of sleep tugged at her mind, suggesting that her bed awaited, eager to cradle her in dreams as sweet as the cafe's ambiance. Here the streets were lined with old stone walls, each resonating with stories from centuries past. The light drizzle formed tiny, glistening paths along the mortar, and lanterns hung from ornate iron brackets, illuminating the root with their mellow glow. A mild breeze played with the leaves piled in corners, brushing them gently into a swirling dance. The entire night seemed full of quiet secrets, as if it had become a reflection of the cafe's gentle hush. When Claire reached the small residence that was her home for the season, she slipped inside, savoring the warmth that greeted her. She set down her bag and walked to the window, which overlooked the same cobblestone street she just traveled. The reflection in the glass revealed her cozy interior behind her and the glimmering lights of the street outside. With a satisfied sigh, she drew the curtains. That simple action felt like closing a chapter on the evening, but it was a chapter she would revisit in her dreams. The sense of calm lingered in her muscles and in the slow, steady beat of her heart. And so, the evening recedes, leaving only the memory of soft rain upon the rooftop and the comforting glow of lamplit windows. Now, as you rest, allow your breath to become even softer. Imagine sinking into the warmth of your own bed, the hush of the world wrapping around you like a kind blanket. Close your eyes gently if you haven't already, and picture that cozy cafe, the gentle lights, the soft chatter. Feel each raindrop's gentle rhythm, tapping out a lullaby on the roof. There is nothing to solve, nowhere you need to be, nothing that requires your attention. This is your moment to surrender to rest, to let the easy hush guide you into deep, soothing slumber. Slowly, gently, let the images drift away. They float like the final droplets of rain fading into the night. Each inhale draws comfort into your body. Each exhale releases any lingering tension. Notice how your body feels heavier, lulled by the memory of distant raindrops. The pace of your thoughts becomes slower, as if enveloped in the same soft hush that filled the cafe. Quietly, you may sense the edges of sleep approaching, wrapping you in a gentle embrace. Allow that feeling to welcome you, letting your mind settle in a tranquil space where the nighttime sky extends endlessly. Let your eyelids grow heavier, your breathing remain calm and natural, and your heart beat in a slow, soothing rhythm. Drift into the warmth of night where dreams can gently gather like friends at a candlelit table. You're safe, you are relaxed. Let the memory of the rain lull you further, guiding you deeper into the realm of rest. No need to think or plan, just sink into the gentleness of this moment. May your dreams be calm and comforting. May the hush of the quiet cafe accompany you on your journey toward the sweetest slumber. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well